could prove that time travelers are real. I'd like to share a dream with you, and I want you to pay attention to the different elements of the dream. Even though it's my dream, I'm going to break the elements down into 4 sections that you can apply into your life that will teach you when a time traveler is at work in your life. Because time travelers are at work in your life whether you're aware of those signs or not. They're more subtle than what we might think. We see pictures sometimes and we're like, oh, this is a time traveler because this person's dressed differently than everyone else. When in reality, time travelers are happening all the time, not just through machines. So in my dream, I was at a friend's house and there was a birthday party going on. But when I arrived at the house, I had these tools where I was incubating these little eggs to create my own chickens. And so I had these eggs, these incubated eggs in my shirt, and it was a children's birthday party, so there were kids running everywhere, and I didn't want them to get hurt, so I was looking through all of these cabinets trying to find a safe space to store the eggs. I found an empty cabinet, but it had a hole in it, and I was afraid that rats or mice might come in and eat the eggs. So I kept having to check it over and over again to make sure that these chickens were incubating correctly and were still safe. Now, looking around the party, and I was at one of my childhood best friends' houses, nothing was really happening. They were running behind in the party, they hadn't ordered the food yet, that nothing was decorated. So I decided I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna take these eggs and I'm just gonna go take them somewhere else and come back later. And then the eggs began to hatch. And so I had chickens of all sizes and colors. I had very, very teeny chickens that probably wouldn't make it. I had one of those there, and there was a grief feeling around that because it was alive, but it wasn't going to thrive. It wasn't going to make it. And I would have to make a decision about that particular chicken. Let it suffer or do something about it. And then I had regular chickens, some that were very fluffy and very yellow and very beautiful, but normal size for a baby chick. And then I had 2 that were really big and heavy, the size of cats. And they had different colors of blues and reds and purples on them. And I was gathering all of these chickens of different sizes and shapes back into my shirt. And I had to go to the store to figure out what they needed. So I had in my brain, well, I've got a barn at home, so there's already a chicken coop there that they can go in. I just need a new bulb for my heat lamp and maybe some fresh feeders because the other ones were dirty in my dream. I don't really have a barn. So I go there, I know exactly what I need, and the man who's helping me is trying to tell me why I need something different. So yes, in my dream, I was being mansplained about how to care for chickens, even though I already knew what I needed and how to care for these particular chickens. And nothing that he offered was quite right, and he wasn't listening to me. A different associate came in, a female, just to make things equal and even, and she was trying to sell me a cage that wouldn't work because the chickens were too little and could walk straight out of the cage. So I felt like nobody in the store was listening to what I actually told them that I knew I needed. And at the same time, when I looked for the things that I knew I needed, the store did not even offer those items. While all of this is happening, I realize that there's someone here at the store who is an old, I'm gonna say, frenemy of mine, someone who we had a falling out. We somewhat worked it out, just deciding to love and respect each other without actually having closure. And that person there, she saw me and she was like, I'm so happy to see you. She looked so excited to be there. And so I said hello, and we realized that my friends had moved the party to the store. And so the party was there and they were about to cut the cake. So me and this friend of me and my current friends and the chickens, we were all together at this big table singing happy birthday and about to cut this birthday cake. Now, from there, things got a little strange, so bear with me. They're about to cut the cake, and someone says, "But Mary's not here," as if they could not see me. And I said, "Oh, I'm here. I'm here now. I'm here now, guys." My friend, my current friend, whose party it was, she saw me and was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm glad you can make it." But then my frenemy had a friend across the table who kept saying over and over and over again, "Mary's not here. Mary's not here. Mary's not here." And it was irritating me, something awful, because she was spreading to the entire table that I was the one person not present for the birthday, the one person who wasn't honoring the birthday girl, the one person who wasn't showing up as I should be. But I was sitting right there. And so I spoke my mind to her and told her to shut her mouth and quit doing those things and quit saying those things. And she got upset and left the table in a huff. And then her husband came over and was, in what I read as a patronizing way, trying to smooth the situation while patting me on the back, like, And I said, "Don't ever touch me again. Do not lay a hand on me again." And so, again, it's that continuation of being misunderstood, or I'm seeing and feeling and knowing something very clearly, and then certain people around me are not listening or picking up on what that is. Now, at this point in the dream, I was feeling very frustrated because there were a lot of different elements that happened, right? I have all of these chickens to take care of. I have a birthday party I'm supposed to be attending, and I feel behind on that. And I have this woman over here yelling at me. And then the friction of the frenemy. And all of a sudden, a man came in. I can't see his face, but there was this feeling of love, encouragement, support. And he sat down right next to me, and I just remember him being a regular person, but being of light, as if he were shining brightly. And he handed me a folded up note on a piece of notebook paper. I opened it up and read it, and I couldn't understand it logically because it was written in a different language. But again, I could pick up that he was telling me adoring words, that he was giving me support, that he was showing me encouragement, and how much love there was there for me. And when I folded the note back, I picked up a book that was mine. It was my book. It was a large chapter book that I knew to be mine. And I opened it and put the letter inside because this was how I was going to keep it. And I realized that there was another letter in the book. And I suddenly remembered, this has happened before. I've met this man before in this life, that this was the second time I was meeting him. And he was smiling. And then he started to go away. And I realized as I looked in the book that there were many letters in the book. And when I awoke from this dream, of course there was the feeling of it being a recurring dream, just because I'd met this person before. There was a feeling of knowing that I had been somewhere in the astral realms. It didn't feel like a junk dream. It felt like a prophetic dream of some sort, with real people in real time. And I also had the knowing that those two letters were because I'd met that person twice in this life and multiple times throughout other lives. And that this book was the proof. It was where I was keeping the receipts, all of his letters. Every time we met, I would put his letter, that receipt, into this book, my book. And that was how I was keeping up with how many times this person was in my life. So I want to break these elements down. The first one is the current friends or associates. So if you think about your current friends and associates, these are going to be the people who teach you how to love better. So when you're thinking of your current friends, Think of anything that they're asking you to do, places where you're supposed to be, how you show up, the things that you feel like they're picking up from you, how you feel they're perceiving you. Because your current friends, the people currently in your life right now, all of those associates, they're going to teach you how to love better. Write that down. Your friends teach you how to love better. The second element in this was the chickens. And the chickens represent creation, what we've created in our life so far. Remember that I was taking such care with all of these creations, and there were many different ones, not just one. I incubated all of them. Some of them I incubated very well. One of them in particular, I remember I didn't incubate very well, and I felt I'd made a mistake. I had some really big, beautiful creations. I had many normal looking, but still beautiful and cute creations. And then I had one that I perceived as a failure. Your creations are how you honor your skill set and build more. We don't always know our skill sets. When we think of our strengths and our weaknesses, we think of things we're good at or not good at. But the reality is we don't know what we're actually good at in our skill sets, like what we have inherent skills towards, until we try to create something with those skills. So we have inspirations and dreams and visions of all of these different things we could create. And as we start to create them, some of those creations turn out beautiful, exactly as expected. Some of those creations turn out bigger and way more than what we ever expected it to be. And some of them fail. And that's okay. This is how we honor our own skill sets and learn how we can move through the world effectively and what things might be a dream but not really connected to a skill set that we can use to better things, to grow things. And that's okay too, to honor those spaces. The next element here was society. So these are all the people in the shop mansplaining to me about something I already know about, right? I've already raised chickens. I already have all of the tools. And these are going to be the many faces of truth and clarity and self-knowing around you all the time. Society reflects your gifts back to you, although quite often it doesn't come as validation. It doesn't always come as a, oh yeah, you look like you just know everything there is to know about farming and chickens. It doesn't always come as positive feedback. But society will reflect to you your own self-knowing. Because when you have that feeling, when you have the clarity and the truth of something, if society does not reflect that to you, you feel it in your bones, you feel it in your heart, and you know what you know. And the more society pushes against that, the more it pushes you to change, to move, to go other places, to find your tribe, to find the right store, to find the things that do align with you and your truth and your clarity. Because everybody has their own thoughts, their own opinions, their own truths, and you will be guided to where your skill sets and your gifts are most needed and appreciated by doors being closed where they're not. Then we get to the old enemies, or places where amends need to be made still. These could even be places that you think you've already put to rest. Maybe you think you've already had the conversation. You think you've already forgiven. But there's more opportunity here. If it comes back around, it's because there's more opportunity for love. Old cycles coming up, old people, old things that need amends. This is your opportunity. Spirit's giving you an opportunity for further self-love and self-truth. I'm going to say that again, because when I first sat with this element, the thing that came to me was, well, the old enemies are coming up so that Spirit can teach me more about love. And my guides were like, no, you know how to love. The issue is when things happen when there are fallings out, when people don't respect you the way that you deserve to be respected or talk to you the way you deserve to be talked to out of their own wounds, this is your opportunity to love yourself anyways. This is your opportunity to honor your truth, to know that you are seeing clearly, that you did the appropriate things, that you took the appropriate steps, and still this thing happened. So this is always an opportunity when these cycles come up again. Yes, on a physical level, it's great to make amends if you can do so safely. It's great to have the conversations, to air everything out. And you already know who this person is now. So this isn't always about, okay, let's be friends again. Spirit is very clear. This is your opportunity for deeper self-love, for deeper self-knowing, and for deeper truth. When all of these elements, the friends, the creations, the society, the enemies, when these four things seem to be popping up in your life all at one time, this is evidence that a time traveler is in your life. This is evidence. This is like a fingerprint that a time traveler is weaving and changing things in your life. Because let me tell you, if a time traveler wanted to guide you without changing history, they wouldn't leave a message in a machine. They would leave a message, they would leave clues in your relationships, in your creations, in your reflections, in your opportunities for completion. Your future grows through the life you're already living. This is evidence of a time traveler in your life. And what we can do about this, when you realize that there is a time traveler working things in your life right now, the best thing for you to do is to take chicken medicine. Chicken medicine represents, like the spirit of the chicken, it represents being grounded, being embodied, being in the here and now. Chickens spend most of their time with their feet on the ground, scratching into the dirt. This embodies living in the here and now in the present moment. So the more a time traveler works in your life to reflect your gifts and honor your skill set and help you love better and give you opportunities for self-love and self-truth, while just know that those are all the things the time traveler is trying to give you right now. And while that's happening, the best thing for you to do is just to stay grounded, embody your current life, and just grow through it. Growing into those skill sets, those gifts, those opportunities for love, the opportunities for self-love and truth, and just keep growing. Now, I told you that I could prove that time travelers exist. The proof is in the book. Remember I said I put the receipts, the letters, in the book. And my first thought was the Akashic, or my personal book of life, right? Because our Akashic keeps up with all of these things. And every single spiritual practice out there talks about timelessness. Not about how people move back and forth through time, but how time is cyclical and we move outside of time. And so I wanted to go further into the books, just for those who might want to know. And I actually found a few verses in the Christian Bible, in fact, that reflect the Akashic, or the Book of Life, or this proof of time travelers. So in the Christian Bible, if we were to go to Psalm 139:16, and I actually found quite a few verses like this, but this is the one I want to use for today. It says, "Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written all the days that were formed for me, when none of them as yet existed." So this reflects probably in my opinion, the closest biblical image to the Akashic Records, the Book of Life, knowing that everything is written there outside of time, and then we step into time to grow it, to experience it, to live it, to move through it. And then I also pulled from the Quran 85:21 through 22, which says, "Rather, this is a glorious Quran inscribed in a preserved tablet." And there are a couple of different verses about the preserved tablet. This is the Book of Life, the Akashic, the eternal blueprint, a preserved tablet. The proof is in the book, the letters. And this isn't something that, like I said, is always in your face. Here's a time traveler, here's a time machine. Time travelers are working all over the place. And how often do we feel like we are our own time traveler? How often have you been in a healing session? You've gone back to your inner child for healing, or to a past life for healing. I want to tell you something about that. For those of you who have had soul retrievals done or inner child work done, where you regress back to childhood, you work through something, you bring healing to that space, and then when you wake up, you feel lighter, you process it, and slowly that thing doesn't bother you as much anymore, and you're able to move forward in your life in a beautiful way. It's not because you're healing that in you now. It's because you, who you are now, went back into your own timeline and helped love, encourage, and support the you who you used to be in the past, so that they could come through that without as much trauma and heaviness, so that they could have hope, inspiration, encouragement, knowing that everything would turn out okay eventually. And because you changed your own timeline, that means when you come out of that, you feel differently about that experience now, because even though you remember the experience the way it used to happen, your energy and your emotions feel it in the way it happened after your visit, because it didn't happen the way your mind remembers anymore. It happened in a completely different way. It happened in a way when you were there to support yourself. And these are things happening all the time with time travelers we've set up for ourselves, with soul partners, with soul family. We do this for ourselves. And this is such a beautiful experience and proof that time travelers exist. I'm Mary Colozzo. Welcome home.